Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another off-street webinar. If you have been to one of these before, you might notice that I am in a different room. However, if you haven't been to one of these before, just know that I am living out my dreams of being on a podcast. So who knows, maybe off-street will be hosting a morning show. I don't know, we'll see. But anyways, I think everyone would like to kind of get on with this. So let's do just that. Today's topic is very familiar for a lot of universities and very timely. We are talking about commencement without the chaos. And don't worry, it won't just be me sitting here alone. We also have a very special guest making their webinar debut today. So before we kind of get into things, I want to know where everyone is tuning in from. So drop that in the chat, let us know, and give us a nice hello. And while you're all doing that, I'll introduce myself. So if you don't recognize me, my name is Kyle. I am a marketing specialist here on the Offstreet team, and I'm usually hanging out here on these webinars, getting to chat with the lovely people like yourselves joining in to say hello. So while you're all kind of dropping in the chat saying hello, I see some people dropping where they're from, which is awesome. I will kind of move on with things. So if you have any questions that come up during the webinar, drop those in the chat as well. We definitely encourage that, or use the Q&A function. We want to hear from you guys so that we can obviously make this more of a conversation. So now it's time for me to introduce our special guest here joining us, our woman of the hour. She's not just a rock star on the Offstreet team, but also one of my favorite people to chat with on and off the mic. She's the kind of account manager who makes clients feel like VIPs and brings serious energy to every conversation. So everybody, please give a warm welcome to Miss Brianne Walkeden, or Bree Walkeden. Yeah, Bree, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Kyle. So I came dressed for the occasion, if you couldn't tell. So I'm really excited to talk all things commencement with you. I am new to the Offstreet team. I'm about 3 months in, so I'm just hitting my probation. If I make it past this webinar, then that is a good thing for all of us. But yeah, I've been loving getting to know our clients, chatting with everybody, all things parking, events. And so I'm excited to chat here today with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, feel free to take that off if you'd like. Call that graduation. But before we get into like the real questions stuff, I didn't prep you for these questions, but I have some hot seat questions for her that I'll just ramble through. So the first one is, what is your biggest parking ticket?
Oh, okay, it's not a parking ticket. I'm gonna be vulnerable here. It was a speeding ticket and it was above 550. So it was a lot. And then I went to parking court actually to try to fight it. And then I got confused and scared and I pled guilty and I wasted a lot of people's time. So I have learned from that mistake and I haven't gotten one since.
Okay, next one, you already might have gave this one away, but how long have you been in parking?
Okay, I'm a parking newbie, so I've only been 3 months, but I like to say that I've been parking since I've been 16. So I think maybe that counts for something, but
I'd say it does. It definitely does. What's your most controversial food opinion?
I like all food. Controversial, I don't know, but I would say if we're talking about most versatile food, I'm gonna go burritos. A lot of people say pizza, but I think you can do breakfast burrito, Mexican, dessert burrito. So it's not controversial, but I'll stay there.
Okay, and last one, what is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, okay, always Party for Two by Shania Twain and Billy Currington, but I always Billy Currington. So if I meet any of you at IPMI, we can maybe do a duet.
Love to hear that. Okay, let's get into this actual topic of commencement without the chaos. Thanks again for being here, Bree. But first off, I'll start by setting the scene. So commencement season is obviously coming up and everyone is very aware of that. And if you're on a parking team, you know it's not just about caps and gowns, it's about making sure that traffic moves slowly, and all those last minute requests don't pile up, and thousands of guests being there get to where they need to go. So today we're diving into how you can make commencement parking stress-free for your team as well as for your guests. And we'll share real-world tips, tools, and stories to help you conquer parking like a pro. So let's jump in. But one last thing before I do that, I want to ask you guys all a question. Our Offstreet bot here will throw up a poll question. We want to know, what are your commencement challenges? What challenges does your parking team face during commencement? Let us know. It should be up there on the screen. But moving on. Okay, question number 1 for you, Bree. You work closely, you mentioned this, with a lot of our university partners. So that means you're talking with them, you're having lots of those conversations. What are the top challenges that you're seeing that they are facing when it comes to commencement?
Yeah, good question. I think with commencement, it is unlike any other event. It's super complex because it can be lots of times over multiple days. It can be different times, sometimes even different venues. So there's a ton of planning that goes into commencement. I think another really big challenge of commencement is that there's always so many new guests, whether it's family, grandparents, guest speakers that are coming onto campus. Lots of times they're not familiar. So what this can lead to is, I think, a lot of confusion and or congestion around some of your major parking lots or garages, and leads to a lot of stress for parking teams. As well, on the planning side of it, this isn't something that just comes together, I think, in a couple of weeks. It takes a ton of different departments, months and months to plan, whether it's facilities, it's events, communications, security. So a lot of people coming together to hopefully plan a really great event for what is an important day for a lot of people. You spend a ton of years and money getting towards this milestone. So yeah, we want to make sure that it's as stress-free as possible and that all those moving parts come together as one.
Yeah, you touched on like a lot of the different moving parts. Which of those, or maybe other ones, do you think that most schools maybe underestimate when it comes to their planning?
I think tapping into what I said before with just the amount of different folks, whether it's your guests, how many different people are involved. And those requests are coming in not only far in advance, but of course, then you get those last minute panicked emails, texts, phone calls that can really stress your team out. And then as well, we don't only think of the guests that are coming to commencement, but also who are those VIPs that need to park? How are they getting there? Speakers, contractors, staff. So just tons of moving parts, which ultimately I think lands with full inboxes, missed calls, and a lot of parking teams ending up being very reactive versus proactive. And so I think you can think of that old saying that is failing to plan is planning to fail. And so really just making sure that all the people who need to be involved are on the same page well in advance when you plan for such a big event.
Yeah, I think we should. I almost want to clip that, what you said, failing to plan is planning to fail. I love that quote. And also like a good example of you talking about it affecting the parking teams very much. I think we saw that in a case study that we did just over a year ago, probably with SJSU. So you might, we might have Eric or Knock in the chat or some other people from the team, but that was something that I think they realized a lot was the effects on their team. But we did a case study with them about a year ago. It was about commencement. We also did a webinar with them. I think our offshoot bot can even throw that in the chat for you guys to check out if you'd like. But that was something that was very prevalent, I guess, for them. And so maybe referring back to that case study that we did with them, what did they do differently that really worked for them?
Yeah, I think the SJSU team is a great example. So many times schools get stressed and they end up just actually suspending enforcement, which is an okay to alternative, but you're missing out on revenue. You're still going to have some of those congestion challenges. So when it came to SJSU commencement, they really went to a digital first option through Offstreet. And what that looked like was one registration link per event. So just having that one simple link for either the event or the department that was having the commencement. And another big piece that they did, which worked really well, was incentivizing early registration. So instead of everybody coming the day of not knowing where they're parking, what they did was they used payments and they did reduce pricing early on, hopefully incentivize those people to register early. And what this allows a parking team to do is have better data on what's happening when people are registering, and better lot capacity management, which is a really big thing. They also enabled their users to choose the parking lot that they were going to go to, whether they want to be closer to the facility or a little bit further away. And then they had those directions where they could link you directly to there using Google Maps. So a ton of different ways that they did that. I also touched on the payments feature, which was something that they utilized through Offstreet, which I think really helped them.
Yeah, no, I love those notes. And just kind of a sidebar, Bree, we were talking about before the word commencement. We don't use that word here. where we're from, we use graduation. And so we've been saying commencement so much lately, but you might hear us flip in between commencement, graduation.
Convocation,
Yeah,
that's a big one,
convocation.
yeah.
That's actually the hat you were wearing. That would have been worn on my convocation. But let's talk about guest experience. This is something we talk about so much here on the Off-Street team, and it's super important to us. And I think it's super important, as you emphasized, when it comes to commencement. So why is parking such a make or break moment on graduation day?
Yes, so parking, I think the experience really starts before the guest even arrives on campus. And so what does that full experience look like? Do you know where you're going? Do you feel confident? Has it been easy?
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to parking at events, it seems like a small thing, but it really is like the first and last thing that a guest experiences when they're coming onto campus. And so really making sure that's a positive experience for them. And then I think just looking at commencement, like we said before, this is a huge day. You have grandparents flying in, you have aunts, uncles, you have your loved ones. And the last thing you want is to be stuck in a line someplace trying to get into a parkade, either missing your loved ones walk across stage, or worst case scenario, missing yourself walk across stage. So I think that's really what we want to avoid, and trying to create a positive guest experience starts before they're even on campus.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so many different things at play, and I think we chatted a lot about those. But I guess my next question here is, what happens when those things maybe aren't considered? Like, what happens when it does go wrong?
Probably your parking teams are more familiar with this, but I think ultimately guests are getting cited, which creates a lot of frustration, anger. And those folks then I think tend to come towards your parking teams complaining, they're upset. And I think from that also is the opportunity for maybe some bad press. I think it's very easy nowadays to just go on to X or to Facebook or LinkedIn and post something that maybe isn't putting your team in the best light, or your campus. And ultimately, I think it's just creating stress for your staff. So you want them to have, I think, a positive experience with this. And then I think on the holistic event side is that this can really lead to either guests being late. It's super disruptive when you have folks coming in the back and the commencement ceremony has started. So just looking to avoid that, I think, as a whole.
I think I wouldn't even be able to relate to that too much, because my commencement itself was, or graduation or convocation, was all virtual. So the experience was completely different, but I can totally understand how the experience, obviously, it matters. So we talked about what happens when it goes wrong. What does happen when it goes right?
So I think it must have been Eric, I think, on the webinar, and he said, when you hear nothing, that's a good thing. So oftentimes I think parking teams hear when things go wrong, but sometimes it's that silence when things go right, where you know you did a good job. And when it goes right, I think as well, they talked about that your staff can actually act more as ambassadors versus putting out fires. So instead of dealing with patrons or guests that are angry and upset, you're able to be there and then guide them to where they're going to go, be a welcoming smile on campus. And then I think it really creates a positive guest experience. So that's on the guest side, but I think if you look for on an internal side, there's so many stakeholders, like we said, that are involved with commencement. And if you can strengthen relationships or build relationships, increase your trust battery with these key departments, I think that goes a long, long way and hopefully sets you up for future success when it comes to other large events that might be on campus.
Yeah, totally. There's so many different things that your team's gonna be working on. Like you said, if they're ambassadors and not firefighters, that's the best thing you can have. Okay, going into maybe more in depth. Obviously, we talked about a lot of the different stakeholders, a lot of different effects of when things happen, whether they're right or wrong. Can you walk us through now maybe how a university would use off-street to manage commencement parking from start to finish?
Yes, so I think our off-street events feature has gotten so much love and improvement and focus in the last even year. And I think that's really a big kudos to probably a lot of you on the call for sitting down with our team, working through there, sharing your pain points, your frustrations, so that we can build out better product enhancements. And so we've had a ton that have come out in the last even couple of months that I think are game changers. But yeah, really when you're looking to create an event specifically for commencement, it is really easy. So in the back end, you would create an event. Like we said, one event per each ceremony, whether that's different times or locations. You can customize it with the branding, you can customize their logo, instructions as well. We have one new feature that we added in earlier this year, and that was multiple locations and venue directions. So you can put now more than one parking location onto your event, allowing users to choose, customize which one comes first as well. And then as well, another big thing when you look at capacity management is that setting those limits for how many parkers can register in each one of those lots. So I think that's been a huge improvement and helps teams to then avoid overselling in certain lots.
Yeah, you touched on a new feature, the multi-location. Can you maybe dive into some more of the new features?
Yes, so I think previously, and I want to say that it was actually with SJSU, last year was the first time we actually introduced GPS coordinates. And so this was a huge win. So now we have multiple locations. So choosing more than one parking lot or garage that you can use. And then what's really exciting, you can direct users directly to there using GPS locations and Google Map. And then another really big improvement, and shout out to Mel and the product team, is venue directions. So now you can not only be directed directly to your parking lot, but now you can also direct your guests to exactly where the venue is. So kind of takes the guesswork out of it, which is nice. Another big thing that we introduced was our confirmation emails and those mandatory email requirements. So because users are pre-registering, they're able to get their reminder 24 hours in advance. So ensuring that they are able to get that key information, get those directions, and then, yeah, make it to commencement on time.
As you should, right?
As you hopefully should, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about like the setup of things on the back end. We threw up a little image here. You can see kind of what it looks like to see this as someone who's parking at commencement or registering for parking at commencement. Now, can we talk about how, okay, you're going to be distributing this, or how the parking team would distribute this and get people registered?
Yeah, so gone are the days where people have to come to your office and pick up a paper pass and then take it back.
Yeah.
This is all digital. It's all done via registration links or QR codes. So your parking team or your communication team will simply send out a link in your event communications. And it's super simple. From there, they register. It's more or less 2 clicks. There's no app to download. You don't put credit card information in. You basically put your license plate in, and then you select park. So that's super easy. And then as well, like we said before, you'll get that confirmation email sent to them upon registration. And then if you are pre-registering, you'll get that event reminder 24 hours in advance. So those are, like I said, those instructions, your directions to your parking lot, as well as your venue directions. So everything kind of all in one.
Yeah, okay. So I've registered for parking, I've showed up to the event, and now I'm at the commencement ceremony. And what's going on then in terms of like for the parking team, you know, during the event or even after the event? Can you talk about that kind of situation there?
Yeah, so I think during the event, we partner with pretty much all major enforcement providers and service providers. So everything is synced digitally and in real time to LPR or your enforcement apps. So no confusion for your enforcement team. Vehicles that registered will have their plates sent to enforcement. They're good to go there. So it's kind of seamless in that sense. And then on your parking team side, this is a bit more on the after side, but the data that you can get from this, I think, is really great. We've done a huge improvement to our reporting function. So we're able to see what your lot utilization is, trends of when people are parking, how they're parking, and then say if you're doing bill backs to certain departments, you're able to see exactly who parked for how long, and then do that reporting and billing after the fact.
There's so many different things you can utilize the data for, which is super awesome. And I think can be super helpful for you on commencement day. That's technically all the questions I have for you, Bree, right now. But I would say I would kind of almost cap that off too. We talked about a lot of different stakeholders, like all the different effects, the importance of commencement day, and things that can go right and wrong. And I would say that all of this is still relevant whether you are using paid parking, which is something you might notice in the SGSU case study. They did advanced registration for parking and it was discounted, but it was still paid parking. So it's going to be the same experience and the same things that take place whether you're doing paid parking or you're doing free parking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And I think a lot of people might not know that we do offer payments. And if that's something you're looking to implement, would love to chat more with you. But you are right that whether it's paid parking or validated or it's being billed back, I think the parker experience is still the same and you want to make sure that it's smooth no matter what.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so that's all the questions I have for you. I'm gonna turn it over once again to the audience here with another poll question. Out of all of the stuff that we discussed today throughout this webinar, what are you most excited to implement on your campus or on your team when it comes to commencement? Let us know. There's quite a bit of options there, and we're super excited. If you want to chat about any of this following the webinar, we're absolutely open to it. But now is the time where we will transfer over into the Q&A section. So I will pull up the chat here, the Q&A questions here on my phone, and we will kind of get into it. Looks like there's a couple here already. Question from Pablo. How do you manage oversharing the link or code so parking lots / structures don't go over max capacity?
Oh, great question, Pablo. We have a couple different features that you can customize when you're creating the event. One would be the max vehicle registration, so or the capacity setting. So say if a lot has only 50, you put that in there, and then once it's hit that max, it actually won't allow people to register again. So I think what that will avoid is having people come be frustrated that the lot that they signed up for or registered for was full.
Yeah.
And then we can also use codes as well. So if you're worried about links either being abused by folks that shouldn't have them, you can put either unique codes in if you want to get really crazy with it, or just codes to just have that extra peace of mind when it comes to kind of your security with that link.
Right. Okay, so then another one here. I saw this on the registration page. How do we get access to the commencement playbook? I can answer that one. We will have a little scan QR code following the webinar here at the end, and then also we'll make sure that you get it in a follow-up email along with the recording. So don't worry, everyone here will get access to the commencement parking playbook, which we're super excited to unveil or release today. But yeah, another one here. Sylvia says, can you talk a little bit about the paid parking feature?
Oh, hi Sylvia, it's good to hear from you. Yeah, so Off-Street does offer paid parking and it works really great for events like this. It's through Stripe, it's super easy to set up. If your school is already using Stripe and you would like to be the merchant of record, that's a great option. If that's not your cup of tea, we also can, we as an Off-Street be that. It's super secure. It's a great option if you are looking to either offset or create some sort of revenue stream for your parking. And if you're a current client, I would say reach out to your account manager. So Sylvia, I'll talk to you after. And if not, if you're maybe a prospective one, I would definitely recommend chatting about how that would work with your account executive.
Love to hear that. Thank you, Sylvia, for the question. Another one here, what has been the biggest win that you've seen from a university commencement parking setup?
Oh,
I think a lot of the times I think back to like the biggest win when it comes to commencement is SGSU. Like we have a case study with them, as I mentioned earlier. We did a webinar with them and I think they had so many guests there. It's just like, that was my perfect picture of like how we can operate off-street with commencement. So I think Eric and Knock and the team at SGSU are definitely up there.
did they knock it out of the park?
They knocked it out of the park. Good one. We needed that. I liked that. If we want to try off-street just for commencement, is that possible without a full integration?
Oh, actually, yes, that's is possible. If you are looking or exploring, would like to see how you could use Off-Street, we would love to either do a pilot project with you, whether that's commencement or a similar event. So what we would do is we would still integrate just so that you got the full experience with either your LPR or enforcement. But yeah, that's something that we could definitely do. I think pilots are a great way to get buy-in from departments when you can show what a great experience it was. Maybe need some buy-in from higher ups. So if that is something that you'd be interested in, we would love to do a bit of a pilot with you.
That's exciting. And I think that's very handy too with the fact that day camps are coming up. Obviously, if commencement's too soon, day camps are just around the corner and they're a much smaller event usually.
Day camps, orientation, tours.
Yeah, there's lots of potential there. We'll just put that out there for you all. But that looks like all the questions so far. If anyone has any last minute or last second burning questions, definitely throw those in the Q&A function or in the chat and someone will make sure they get in there. But otherwise, I think that is all of the time we have for today. I will, once again, thanks everyone for joining the webinar or morning show, I guess, today. Thank you, Bree, again for being here today, talking about commencement and yeah, making your debut with us.
It was a lot of fun. Hopefully I'll be back. If you guys like this setup versus the Zoom, let us know, because yeah, we're always trying to get creative in what we put out there.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So thanks again, everybody, for coming. I think our off-street bot here will throw up my contact information as well as a QR code where you can scan and you can get access to the commencement parking playbook. Use one or all of those strategies lined out in there. Or if you have questions about it, reach out to me. If you have questions about anything else when it comes to maybe your commencement strategy or a pilot project, as Bree mentioned, you can reach out to myself or one of your account managers or anyone on the offshore team, really. But my contact information is there on the page. If you don't want to talk to me, I'll connect you with someone you do want to talk to. That's why I'm here. But once again, thanks everyone. Check out that SGSU case study. Check out our website. We're super thankful for all of you. Thanks so much.
Happy commencement.